Hello, 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 and welcome to the Freq Show. I am Jaclyn Steele Thurmond. I'm joined by my very handsome husband, Sam Thurmond, and this is episode 33. And today we are going to be talking about preparing our election day mindset.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. This is one of the most contentious and potentially most important elections in our lifetimes. And so we wanted to talk today about where our heads are at, where we are, where our mindset is going into this election, and then no matter what happens, what we are preparing ourselves to take on. Would you say that that's pretty accurate?
Yeah. I think, both sides feel like that we all have a lot on the line here. So that's why it has been such a tumultuous, last, a lot longer than 6 months. But, as things have kind of progressed and we've gotten closer and closer to Election Day, it just kind of seems to have consumed a lot of the population. But I think at the end of the day, and what we're going to talk about is, regardless of what happens, this is how we're going to approach it and how we're going to come out the other side.
Yeah. And if you've followed us online at all, especially me, you'll know who I'm voting for. I have made no mistake about it. I have not minced my words. But I will say this. I think there are so many misconceptions out there for both parties. And I have voted both Democratic and Republican throughout my voting life. I'm 38 years old. I've been voting since I was 18. So I like to take the issues and really look at them and then navigate through them through what I feel like is logic and then base my decision on that. I don't subscribe to either political party. I don't feel like they are part of my identity in either way. I just really want the right person to be in there who I think will lead our country forward in the best way and stick to the Constitution. I'm definitely a constitutionalist.
Yeah, and we went to an event where RFK was speaking, and we obviously are big RFK
Huge
Jr. supporters.
RFK
And
fans.
if he was still in the race and still had a legitimate chance, we would be voting for RFK Jr., no doubt. And that's honestly how we align. Just his outlook on public health and the health of our children and our society and how many problems that causes. And with relatively simple fixes, protecting our food system, ending the forever wars, ending corporate capture of our government. That's really what we're aligned on. And I agree with you.
Pharmaceutical companies.
I agree with you. We are not, I don't care what side of the aisle someone's on. And I think I understand it somewhat, but on the other hand, I think it is ridiculous how quickly we are willing to pledge our allegiance to one or other, one party or the other, when there's no possible way that everybody thinks one of two ways. That there's so much middle ground
There's so
in
much
there.
nuance.
But we're at a point in our society now where, if you are a Democrat, then I'm going to assume all of this about you. If you are a Republican, I'm going to assume all of this about you.
Yeah, I think that's really dangerous.
When I think the majority of the population is independent, right? Registered independent?
No, I don't know that that's the case, but I think most people intellectually fall somewhere in the middle. Most people aren't radical leftists. Most people aren't radical right wing.
Yeah, but I'm saying from a registration standpoint.
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know.
Maybe I'm wrong. I thought that I saw something where the largest party, not really a party, but affiliation is independent.
But I think you're right. I think it's very dangerous to assume people's character based on who they're voting for. Just because somebody's voting for Trump does not mean that they're a racist or that they hate LGBTQ or that they are pro-abortion. There are a lot
pro-life.
of... Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, pro-life. Yeah, there's so much nuance there. And for us, we don't hate anybody. We're for people loving each other however they want to love each other. We are for people having freedom to live how they want to live. And that's just the way that it is.
Yeah, the system has kind of done an incredible job of creating this division amongst people in order to perpetuate this two-party system, and it's unfortunate,
It's really sad.
through the media, through social media, politicians themselves, companies, businesses, lobbyists, everything. It's gotten out of control.
It's
And I think
gotten
it's
way out of
always
control.
kind of been this way. It's just so much more in our face now with social media.
It's certainly amplified, but I also think that people's rhetoric has become harsher and harsher. I think there was more respect 10, 15 years ago. Even
Yeah.
in the Obama years, there was still vitriol between parties and between people on the left and the right, but it was much more respectful. Now I feel like it's like a bloodbath
Yeah.
rhetoric wise.
Well, I think a lot of people would point to Trump as an instigator of that
And I think
the
he
cause.
was.
And he certainly plays his part, but I think he is more of a direct instigator, and someone who just starts shit by saying it directly. But then I think on the other side, there's a more subversive approach that is just as effective, if not more effective, because it's not as obvious
Yeah, it's a little sneakier.
as his. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely a problem. But it was really refreshing. It's funny to say this. It was refreshing to watch the vice presidential debate,
Yeah,
and
that was
the way
really that was
both
good.
Vance and Waltz, at least were cordial to each other, showed each other respect.
Yeah, they were
It was kind of
respectful.
nice to see,
It felt like a
for the first
throwback,
time in a
didn't it?
while. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, I enjoyed that too. And I feel like bottom line, Sam and I are willing to have conversations with anyone who is willing to have a respectful debate. If people are going to name call and be nasty, then we're going to shut it down. But overall, you and I love to debate. We love hearing other people's perspectives. I think it's important to hear other people's perspectives. This will show my nerdiness, but in high school, I was part of Model UN. And our job as Model UN members was to study a country and know everything about that country in order to be able to argue on their behalf, but then have a very good understanding of what the other sides were and what we would be arguing against. And so I think it's really important to, in these conversations, and we've touched on this before, but enter with an open mind. It doesn't mean that you have to give up your belief system or not be tough or not be shrewd in the way that you think, but keeping an open mind allows for there to be an element of humanity in there. And that's the part that I think we're missing right now on social media and often in person, is that we're talking to another human being. And it is easier to have these conversations in person, looking in somebody's eyes, because you realize like we're way more alike than we are different. And so making sure that we're not dehumanizing, making sure that we're not participating in any kind of dehumanization is, I think, really important for people to keep in mind.
Well,
Dehumanization never leads anywhere good.
I mean, it's easy to do online, to be a keyboard warrior.
Yeah, but in my mind, the people who are keyboard warriors are people who, and I'm going to make a generalization here, but have too much time on their hands and they just want to be heard. They just want to be heard. They're lonely, they're insecure, they just want to be heard, and they want to create some kind of reaction.
Well, and also people are scared to death of the opposition for one reason or the other.
Like is just so
but one thing that I wanted to go back to that you were talking about was whenever, arguing 101, whoever becomes emotional and whoever loses their cool first is going to be the one that, loses the argument. And I think that these are important topics, that are debated. Certainly they're important. And so there's obviously going to be emotion behind them, but we have to be able to separate ourselves from our opinions. And what you're talking about as far as being open to other perspectives and other ideas, I think I'm kind of that way to a fault a lot of times,
Yes.
in that I want somebody to give me a better explanation to change my mind, but I think that we need so much more of that. And if I can plainly say, this is my opinion on this, and this is why I believe it, and then somebody else can come along and say, well, you didn't consider this, this, and this is where you're wrong or what you need to consider. I welcome that because I want to have the broadest perspective and the most dialed in understanding of why I believe something, so I can truly believe it and truly buy into it.
Yeah. And I'm a lot more fiery.
Yeah, you are, and I love that about you. And I've told you before, that's one of the many things that I was really attracted to early on in our relationship, was that you were so opinionated and you had firm beliefs in so many things, whereas I was a little more wishy-washy, open to
Well, and
influence. But
I think we're a good balance of each other, and you hold me accountable. You know, I don't think you'll mind me saying this, but my mother-in-law, Sam's mom, we've been having a group text, the three of us,
oh gosh,
and she differs from us in general politically pretty drastically. And so we'll have these discussions with her on different issues. And I tend to get emotionally involved. As much as I love to say I'm a good arguer, I was raised by an attorney, like I got this on lockdown. When I'm having these conversations about issues that mean so much to me with someone that means so much to me, it's easier for me to become emotional about it because I love that person and I want them to hear me and see my side. But you reminded me the other day, you were like, you let your emotion get into it, and now it has affected you negatively because you want her so badly to see where you're coming from and understand. But that's not our job in this. Our job is to lay out the facts and let her come to her own conclusion. So I feel like you rein me in a little bit in a good way.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I think whenever that starts to happen, we start to diverge from the actual issue at hand and start to kind of, talk about things that really don't matter, or we kind of,
I wasn't talking about things that don't matter though.
no, I'm not saying that, but topics that
that detract from the point.
Right. You're detracting from the point. And the flip side of that is that if you state your case over and over again, and it doesn't feel like the other person's receptive or that they're truly taking what you have to say into account, there's a certain point where you just have to accept that that's
the way that it is.
That's the way that it is, and you're not going to change their mind. Or, maybe you planted a seed, and they'll think about it and
just mic drop
and come back over time. And it's same for you.
It's easy for me to do that with other people, with our family members. I definitely get more heated because I want there to be harmony. And when I feel like people come to the dinner table proverbially with two different ideologies, it gives me a sense of anxiety because I want there to be harmony and I want everybody to feel calm and comfortable and loved and all of those things. But I can't control how anyone else feels. I just can't.
It's also, it's what's really frustrating is when you can clearly see that someone is kind of blinded by a narrative.
Yeah.
Whenever you're having a conversation with someone, and not to cast judgment, but it feels like they're blinded by a narrative that has been perpetuated in the media or whatever it is, and they're unwilling to maybe consider that's been either blown out of proportion or isn't true in the first place. So
well, and I shared with you in an intimate moment that my ego then starts to rear its head and I want to like verbally crush someone and just annihilate them, which is not good. So I always need to catch myself when, my ego wants to go, well, I know more than you about this. And let me just show you how much more I know. But that's not A, necessarily always the case. And B, that's not who I really want to be. That's like
And
my
it's not
shadowy
effective.
side, and it's not effective.
Yeah,
No,
it
it's a
pushes
power
apart.
play. It's a
Yeah.
power play, and I mean, there are moments when I think a power play is appropriate in life and business. Very rarely, but I think there are moments it's appropriate, but I don't want that to be my MO. And it's not my MO. I caught myself as I was about to do it. So I stopped the situation, but still, if I'm thinking about my own actions, I need to be very self aware that I can allow my ego to get involved and want to take over and just crush.
And we also have to remember at the end of the day, these are our friends, these are our family members, and it's
100%.
not worth. You can either be right or you can be happy,
Yeah.
at the end of the day. So you got to choose which one is more important to you.
Yeah. And I'm always going to stand up for what I believe in, but I think I can always do that through a lens of love and speak the truth in love and not allow the ego to take over.
And as long as you've been allowed to say what you need to say and the other person's been allowed to say what they need to say,
Nope.
they can
Nope. Nope.
it's okay for
Kidding.
somebody to just not see something the way that you see it.
Yeah,
You
it
know,
is. It
so
absolutely is. And that's one of the beauties of being an American with that.
being a US American.
Being a U.S. American.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on. And I know in our world it has taken up some space. We've taken breaks from social media over the last month or so just to kind of clear our heads from all the whirlwind of everything that's going on.
Yeah, and both sides, they fearmonger. Both sides do it.
Which is it's really good to take those breaks because you reset and you go outside and the sun's shining and you realize that the world is not necessarily, caving in on itself.
Yeah.
So
what's our mindset on election night?
I think our mindset is really what our mindset always is. And it's one of taking ownership. And regardless of the outcome, one, it's probably not going to be as bad as everyone is projecting it to be, one way or the other. We have a big government and things do move slowly. So it's not like there's going to be a switch that's flipped day one way or the other. And I think it's just a matter of being aware of what's going on, identifying where opportunity lies with everything, and taking advantage of that and creating our own economy, creating our own community, those sorts of things. And so it's not it's pulling the power back in versus putting the power elsewhere.
So I always return to this quote from Wallace Wattles in The Science of Getting Rich. And I talk about this in one of our calibrations. It's about finding calm in chaos. And he talks about government and politicians and industries. And he says in the book, don't worry about these things. They are in existence for a reason. They are there to allow you channels of making money and providing opportunity. And he said, God will take care of these things. And essentially, good will win out in the end. So don't stick your head in the sand, but at the same time, don't allow yourself to be consumed by this stuff to the point where you are not able to go after your dreams, to be present with your family, to do what you need to do.
Yeah.
Because I've seen that over and over, like, oh, the world's going to end. I might as well just give up.
Yeah. Be aware, but be optimistic. Yes. In the long run, it's always going to be the optimist that succeeds.
Yeah, 100%. And there was a quote, I don't remember who it was by, but it was about in the economy when there's a downturn, how the people who are the wealthiest find opportunities in downturns. And they channel that fear into something progressive and something that will help them create traction in their businesses and in their lives. And I think there's always opportunity.
Yeah. It's
Warren
Buffett. Warren Buffett.
That was a Warren Buffett quote?
Well,
I was thinking of it was like a fisherman quote. He was fly fishing and they were talking about.
Oh yeah, there's like a story about the guy who's casting his line on the rocks when
Yeah.
the I can't remember
It's
exactly how it
such
goes,
a
but
good story.
yeah. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, Warren Buffett, along the same line, Warren Buffett talks about going all in when the markets, when uncertainty is at its height,
Yeah.
and being conservative when the opposite is true. So
Yeah. Yeah. If it's popular, don't do it. If it's unpopular, look into it.
yeah.
Right? And I would say the reason that we're talking about this at all is because we are so deeply involved in creating a high frequency mindset with each other in our individual lives. And I know that there is so much fear around this election. There is so much anxiety around this election. There is so much anger around this election. And if we can choose to diffuse some of that individually, and as a couple, and then if you choose to do that, we're going to change the trajectory of how this country looks. And RFK said it best when he said, if we can choose to love our children more than we hate each other, then we're going to be able to radically change this country.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that to the core of my being. I know who I'm going to vote for. I feel very strongly about that. But no matter who you vote for, you're still a human. I still respect you. I can still send you love and light and all of the things, and we can still be friends. And I think if we can continue to reach across and shake hands, that's really important. And then also cultivate a mindset of opportunity. Cultivate a mindset that stays on the frequency of belief that no matter what happens, we can still achieve the things that we want to achieve. We can still have a life that we love. And I think something I love so much about Stoic philosophy is that Stoic philosophy puts the ownership on you. We get to decide what affects us. We get to decide what we give meaning to. We get to decide what we give our attention to. And that all is very, very powerful. That will dictate how our lives roll out and end up.
Well, you're in the driver's seat. You're taking control.
Seat.
Yeah.
Yes. So, how we plan to move forward is essentially doing what we have been doing, which is looking for opportunities, which is trying to be a beacon of light, a beacon of high frequency thinking and living.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really plan on changing much at all, no matter what happens.
Yeah.
Although I still want to get that house in Italy, no matter what happens. Yeah.
Hey,
You in?
as soon as you got the down payment, I'm ready to roll.
Well, I might have it in the next couple days, boo.
Let's do it.
Okay. So, anything else that you want to add to this?
No, I think we said it all. I think it's important just to, again, separate yourself from a lot of the ideas and thoughts, and allow them to kind of develop and take in more information and be able to debate in a way that's respectful across the board and doesn't drive more divisiveness, because I think open communication and open conversation will ultimately bring us back together, but it's severely lacking in our society because everyone is so divided, and it's so hard. People are scared to have those conversations. People are scared to bring them up. So I think that's super important. And then at the end of the day, like you said, you're in control. You create your own economy. You create your own reality. So no matter who is, who's sitting in that seat, you're in the driver's seat of your own life. So I think that's really it.
Yeah, I think the last thing I want to share is we do have a responsibility to stick to a moral compass. And what I mean by that is understand that everybody is human. Everybody has a right to the dignity of their own experience, and everybody deserves respect. So no matter how different anybody is from you or me or whatever, they're still human. They still deserve respect. And I want to be a person who goes out into the world and more than anything exudes love and exudes kindness. And I would just encourage everyone who is listening to apply a moral compass to everything that you do, no matter how angry you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Question to leave the audience.
Are you putting yourself in a mindset to win no matter what?
Are you putting yourself in a mindset to win no matter what? Oh, if you're still here at the end of this, I want you to know personally from my heart to yours, I believe in you. I know that you are capable and you are worthy. Thank you for listening, and live on purpose and live on frequency.
Live on frequency.
Thank you so much for listening to The Freq Show with Sam Thurmond and me, Jaclyn Steele Thurmond. We would love to connect with you via our website, beckonliving.com, and on social media.
You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Beck and Living, and you can join our email list to receive uplifting messages, podcast and business updates, and discounts on high-frequency products just for our freaky community.
Cheers to high frequency living.